A lot of red zone today. Getting an opportunity to work on some specific things within our overall installation and development. Certainly for our quarterbacks, being able to take care of the football in that area is absolutely crucial. I think we saw last year at times how that was not an effective area for us at times. So we've spent a lot of time. We're doing some things defensively down there that require a lot of repetition. And then offensively, where we have to be so much more effective in the red zone. So a lot of work over the last couple of days. Don't particularly like being indoors for red zone, but the weather conditions were a little iffy this morning. We'll go back and do some more red zone work again tomorrow. So, as we enter into the last, few practices, we really try to focus on some of those areas that I felt like, as we did a full self-scout of our effectiveness or lack thereof in certain areas, red zone was an area that we have to be more effective and efficient in. So a major emphasis for us the last couple of days, and in particular today. Getting some guys back to practice, trying to get them reintegrated into the units, I think, is important as we finish up spring practice. We want our guys to leave feeling as though they're close to getting back with football-related activities, whether it be, Devin Butler or Tony Springman or Nick Martin. These guys are on the cusp of getting closer, so we're trying to integrate those guys into work that we see that we can get them back into. So that's another piece of this part of spring practice, an eye towards that. And then I think finally, trying to really sort out the areas that we really have to be diligent on in June. And that's the exciting part for me, that June, that we'll get an opportunity to work on some specific things with our football team in June, whether it be, working on specific football-related activities with players that need that skill enhancement. I think that's pretty exciting. We've never had that opportunity before in my 24, 25 years of being in this business. So, we're looking at that too. So that's really where we are, going into, the last few days of spring practice. So questions?
Brian, you said you'd rather do red zone outside. You went outside the previous 2 days. Were there any things that you maybe adjusted your schedule since you were outside? Kick coverage?
Yeah, we did a lot of punt work with, fielding balls, catching balls, spent a little bit more time on that, and we got some red zone work in there. You just get better spatial, awareness outside with, the back of the end zone, and certainly catching punts outside. So we certainly did that. We're hopeful with no rain in the forecast that we can get a couple more days outside.
Speaking to Coach Elston the other day, he offered some encouraging words about Romeo Okwara and said that he felt that by the fall he'd be a much different football player than he is now, and that he's making progress. What's been your perspective on his progress?
Well, I think his has been a product of repetition and work. He didn't get a ton of work last year. So I think, and I don't want to put words in Coach Van Gorder's mouth, nor I don't think Coach Elston, has commented publicly on it, but, Romeo, when we started off, this spring, it was new for him in a lot of ways. And, we've got this big athletic kid, but there's a lot of room there for growth. And what we're hoping to see is what we're seeing, is that we're seeing that steady improvement. There's a lot of room left there for him to grow. So I would probably agree with Coach Elston that our expectations are that, come time to play against Rice, that we're going to see a different player than when we saw first day of spring practice.
And you had said in the fall that just his background and knowledge of the game, wasn't real advanced when he came in. Are you starting to see some of that fall into place for him?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and again, I think it's just the knowledge base based upon him being out there. He's playing so much more football. He's out there. He's getting a sense and feel for different certain situations. He was only out there, if you remember, just take the Stanford game, for example, passing situations. So wasn't really aware of first and second down, didn't know, different stances and how to handle different blocks. He's getting that, kind of experience now.
With Joe Schmidt in the middle of your defense, I mean, if he's not 6'3", he's probably not running a 4.4 out there, but what does he do that's so good that you can't take him off the field?
Well, I don't think there's anybody on our defense that we can't take off the field. I think he's earned the right to be on the field right now because of his football IQ. He has a really, he's able to, it's really hard defensively. You have to see things and then react to them. And Joe can see it and react. Some guys can't see it, and then it makes it hard for them to react. So if you're a guy that can't see what's happening, you can't use your athletic ability effectively. So Joe makes up for that, and then he can see it and react. And so all of a sudden he takes a 4.8 and he turns it into a 4.6. So his ability to see things and react change his maybe, as some would perceive, some physical limitations, and he turns them into pluses. So what's keeping him on the field is his football knowledge and his instincts and his ability to play this specific sport of football. He's a football player.
Is there, you see leadership potential there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, now, he's not commanding the entire room. Joe was a walk-on 2 years ago. He's worked his way up through the lines of respect. He's immensely respected by his peers, and he's gaining more of that kind of leadership role because he's the man in the middle, and it's evolving where he's gaining that respect and leadership role.
We talked to Matt about Golson and chemistry, and you touched on this a little bit last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Matt just sort of like, is it a route is a route, like whether you're Corey Robinson or Will Fuller, like you run the route the same way? He's like, well, no, that's where that chemistry comes in. Could you expand, I guess, on what that chemistry actually means, what that looks like between a quarterback and a receiver who maybe haven't worked together a whole lot?
Yeah. Well, each one of them has a different skill set. Will feels like he can beat anybody vertically. So his tendency is to take his corner route to the pylon, right? Because he's thinking speed. Where Corey's thinking leverage and body and leveraging out a defender. So, he's trying to work the sideline a little bit more. So his route bends a little bit more towards the sideline. So it's getting a feel for each one and how they run a particular route. As much as we would like to stay consistent with how they run the route, there's those little nuances that you have to work out. There are some hard and fast rules on a number of routes. So it's not that they've got to teach each route and each one of them. So it's not like we've got a million different routes that have to be taught, but there are those slight nuances that each one of them has that they're beginning to work through each one of them.
Just from a personnel perspective, Rashad Kinlaw, what's his status?
He's been dismissed from the football team.
Is he still a student here?
I do not know that right now.
Anything else?
Good.
You mentioned the specific things, and the specific things you wanted to work on in June. Do you have an idea of what any of those are yet?
Well, they have to be, SAQs, so speed, agility, quickness. They have to be conditioning related activities. to fulfill the NCAA requirements relative to the work that we can do with our players. We can't go out there and throw the footballs around and line up in formations and do those kinds of things, but we can work football-related movements that we're seeing that we may be behind or deficient in from player to player to player. So that's what we're excited about, is that we can take each one of our players now by position group and craft and put together a list of things that we can actually visually see and look at their improvement on during the month of June.
And then just to clarify, on Kinlaw, he was dismissed, he didn't decide to leave the team, is that right?
I dismissed him from the program.
Brian, with Everett, has he met your expectations this spring to this point? And also, how do you feel like the team has accepted him back and meshed with him?
Expectations for me were, I think, more than anything else, attention to detail, taking care of his academics and making sure that he was a good teammate. And I think he's met all of those expectations. I knew the football he was a year away from it, and what we're doing offensively this year is new math for him. And so I knew there was going to be a learning curve there, and I think he's making really good progress from that standpoint. So he's met those expectations. I think the team has embraced him. He's got obviously a very likable personality, so I don't think that there's ever been one where, Everett's never been a polarizing figure within our football program, other than he's the quarterback at Notre Dame. And so I think he's well liked. He works hard. He's respected by his teammates. He's just, still learning from my perspective at the quarterback position.
In the sense that you haven't really officially named a #1 quarterback, do you still want to see him doing leadership things and still wanting to take ownership of the team, even though that announcement hasn't been made?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And he's, he knows he's got work to do in that area. We're trying to run as much 11-on-11 real football during our spring as possible, because our quarterbacks need that. They've got to communicate. They've got to be able to take control of the offense. And so we're trying to put them in as much of a control position, if you will, and those are the things that he needs to work on. He wasn't very good at them in his first year here, and that's where I think he's making some progress.
As far as Ronnie Stanley, what makes him, you had a lot of people you could have put at left tackle. What makes him stand out at that position?
Well, he's extremely athletic for a big fellow, right? He's uses his arm length to his advantage. I think for Ronnie, we'd like to see him continue to work on being more physical. But he's a really good athlete. He's a really good basketball player too, on a very talented team in high school. And he kind of has that kinesthetic awareness in a sense that he can really get his body in good position, and knows where the quarterback is. He just has a really good sense of the pocket and a good feel for that in pass protection. And he's still got work to do in terms of on the line of scrimmage, base drive, cutoff, things like that coach works with him every day. But just a really good sense and awareness in pass protection.
And Jarrett Grace, I know that you're not going to know anything for a few more weeks, but he didn't look noticeably more limpy than he did before the surgery.
Really, really pleased. I mean, the early indications are very positive. We're cautiously optimistic about where he is. He feels great. He's in a good frame of mind. I know our doctors feel really good when they got a chance to go in there, and he was kidding. He said, it was rusty rebar that they put in there, and I'm going to be the toughest middle linebacker in America. So he's just got a good positive attitude about it, and there's not a better kid that you would want to root for in terms of coming back from the kind of injury that he had than Jarrett Grace.
Frank, a follow-up on Will Fuller. You're talking about wanting to stretch it to the pylon. Where does he need to improve his game to go to the next step?
I think all of our guys, it's consistency. You know, they flash at times where you go, wow, they're really impressive. And for Will, it's an interesting. I don't know how to articulate it to you precisely, Tim. Just he understands the game really well. He doesn't apply the right technique sometimes to the specific situation that he's in. For example, he gets a lot of press coverage, so he's running a quick slant. So he's working the corner over on a great release, and he gets inside. So he takes his time, does a great job, and then gets inside. The next time the corner flips his hips and plays soft coverage, and he's making the same kind of deliberate move, and the ball is already thrown because we see it's cover 3 and the ball is thrown behind him. So it's his knowledge base of understanding the game, and it's coming. You know what I mean? And I think it's just experience and being out there and seeing different things, because he's a pretty smart kid. He's a pretty savvy kid. I think it's just consistency and seeing. And I think the more he plays, he'll kind of get that stuff. So I don't know how to really articulate the word for that, but just more experience, just play more.
The defense has been built, you said, mainly on 2 things, just limiting the big play and keeping the points down. But obviously there's much, much more emphasis, it seems, on creating turnovers, which you said maybe was not on the hierarchy. How has it been kind of flipping the mentality of all the defenders to create perhaps more turnovers?
I think that's too simple of a term, creating turnovers. I think what Coach Van Gorder and I want to kind of create there is we want to create more pressure for the quarterback. You know, we want them under more duress. And so from that standpoint, maybe the net gain there is turnovers. But I think, you know, if they're making bad decisions and throwing the ball away, you know, we're gaining downs in that respect too. So I think that's been a process for us. You know, we're moving in a new direction for our defensive personnel. It's coming, and they're making progress in that regard, but it'll take us some more time.
Teddy Bruschi recently mentioned that in the NFL, about 60% of defenses are sub-packages. Do you see, like, college football so going more and more to where a base defense is a sub-package?
Well, you would like to be able to have your personnel do multiple jobs. If you can do that, you know, you've put yourself in a very good position, because now you've got the pen last on defense. If you're situationally substituting, it's a big advantage. If I know you're taking out number 92 and bringing in number 36, I know what your front is. You know, so you know, there's an advantage to being in sub packages, and then there's a disadvantage. I think if you can have players that can play multiple roles within your defensive scheme, which is what we're trying to get to, you know, there's definitely an advantage there. And I think defenses are trying to get to the point where they can keep their guys on the field first, second, and third down.
Is that why you had, like, Collinsworth and some of the other safeties doing some linebacker drills today?
Yeah. And if you look at some of our, you know, our recruiting this year, you got a lot of linebackers that are interchangeable. You know, you get guys that can play some different positions, and you know, they're not all Wills, they're not all Mikes, they're not, you know, one of the positions that's always kind of been, you know, lost is, what do you do with the Sam linebacker? You know, what does he do? You know, what's the Sam? Is he a C-gap player? Is he playing space? You know, what does he do? So it's kind of really trying to get your defense to match personnel and allow them to do more than just one thing. And that's what we're trying to do with our personnel, is to get them. And Brian's really working hard to try to get players to do more than just one thing, and not just be, you know, the closer, you know, be more than just that.
Apologize, I should ask this earlier, but with Kinlock, can you say whether it was academic or disciplinary or why he was dismissed?
From my perspective, from a football standpoint, he didn't live up to the rules within our football program that I lay out within our football program.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.